The emergency department at New Zealand's busiest hospital has been called unsafe for patients in a damning new report.
A patient who died in the waiting room had been waiting for 3 hours.
Deaths in our emergency departments.
The safest wait is the shortest wait.
Hospitals under pressure.
You say coming back. We say fight back.
Or is there not enough care in ED?
You need to fix what's broken. And to me, it's very broken.
When a system is under strain, it's the most marginalised groups that are probably going to fare the worst.
She was my first mokopuna.
Mereana Stevens shares a special bond with her moko Jane.
There was this spontaneous humour that her and I just sort of clicked into. Jane would always ring, or she would come round, say, let's go out for breakfast, Nan, and that's what we would do.
When Jane was 23, she became pregnant with her first child. Her nan and dad, Alfred, were thrilled for her.
I was happy because she was happy that she was going to be a mother.
But the birth was traumatic.
She had to be rushed away and taken to theatre, where she was operated on.
She lost quite a bit of blood.
Jane should have been given a blood transfusion after she gave birth, but she wasn't. And as a consequence, her heart had to work 10 times harder.
Both she and her baby survived, but Jane suffered a heart attack 5 months later. Jane now left with a heart condition.
But she didn't want to let it affect her role as a mother. I think that made her feel complete when she became a mum.
But in early 2023, Jane unexpectedly suffered a major stroke. She was just 29 years old.
She had to be flown to Wellington Hospital from Gisborne, so she was flown down there for treatment and she was in intensive care.
She was very ill before the stroke. It just increased after the stroke.
In the following months, Jane Brunt had to go to Gisborne Hospital several times with different health issues.
I did used to love just resting my forehead on hers, just having that hongi, like wanting to give her my life and not see her go through any more pain and suffering.
On the morning of August 13, Mereana and Alfred receive a phone call from Jane's partner.
Jane felt dizzy and unwell, so they had gone to Gisborne Hospital and they were waiting in the emergency department.
Jane's partner then calls again half an hour later in even more distress.
She still hadn't been seen to, and he was pretty upset, and he kept saying to me, I don't know what to do, Nan. And I was trying to calm him down over the phone.
Those are two pretty panicked calls from her partner.
Very, especially that second one. After that second call, he rang again and he was just beside himself.
Mereana says Jane still hadn't been triaged, despite having difficulty breathing and having chest pain.
They were sitting in the waiting room and she stood up off her chair and she fell forward onto her face.
Jane's partner yells out. Finally, medical staff take notice. She's rushed to resus. CPR is performed. At 12:20, the defibrillator delivers the first shock. Followed by adrenaline, CPR, and further shocks. At 1 p.m, CPR is still going, while a doctor tries to find Jane's partner. But it's all too late. 45 minutes after Jane collapsed, CPR is stopped. Time of death, 1:05 p.m.
She had died at the hospital.
Not something you want to hear.
To fall down in an emergency department and pass away there, it's not okay. It's not okay.
In recent months, deaths in emergency rooms have been under the spotlight. In August, a woman died in Whatu Ora Hospital waiting in ED. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon admitting wait times were far too long.
We've got really clear targets around the number of people we expect to be treated within 6 hours in an emergency department. At the moment, that is blowing out tremendously.
When people turn up to emergency rooms, what care should they be provided?
It should be the best clinical care that you can receive. It happens less for people who are Indigenous or people of colour or ethnic minorities. And so we've got a big problem there.
Dr. Elana Curtis led the most comprehensive research into inequities in emergency departments in Aotearoa.
The death rate for Māori within 10 days of presenting to an ED is higher, significantly higher than non-Māori. The odds were 60% higher for Māori. Now that is a signal that something's not happening right for Māori compared to non-Māori here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the emergency departments across our country.
When a New Zealander turns up at the emergency room or when a child starts school, they don't turn up thinking about their ethnic identity, they turn up thinking about their need.
Do you think that comment is fair?
I think it's really short-sighted and it actually doesn't reflect the evidence base that we have, both here in New Zealand but internationally and around the world. Unfortunately, ethnicity does matter, and ethnicity does have a role to play in how people are treated in not just emergency departments but in our health systems in general.
Mereana Stevens believes her mokopuna symptoms weren't taken seriously.
Had they done their initial observations, they would have known how unwell she was.
If she's displaying signs of shortness of breath and being dizzy and fainting, why wasn't she seen to straight away or within 10 minutes, 15 minutes? There's a good chance that she could have been here with us still today. I don't believe anyone should be dying in the waiting room or an emergency department. I mean, she deserved a bit more dignity than that.
Why don't you think she received that dignity that day?
I don't want to pull the racial card, but I believe within myself that probably because she was Māori and her partner being Māori and being hysterical.
Jane's partner tried to advocate for her, but he was labelled as being aggressive and security alerted.
She was very angry.
As many people would be.
Yes. And for me, it was just a reaction to his partner passing away.
So when a Māori patient maybe is just being forthright, being articulate, expressing their desires, which is quite normal for your expectation from a Pākehā patient, but as soon as a Māori patient does it, they're aggressive, they're dangerous, we need to call security.
Jane's whānau were also left with questions about the cause of Jane's death.
And even now, we still don't know what she actually died from because it doesn't state exactly what it was on her death certificate.
It says that she presented as obese. I find that a bit offensive. The heart condition that she had, it affects people who are thin and healthy as well. To me, that's undignified.
So in other words, they're here, they're unwell, it's their own fault.
Dr. Elana Curtis understands the pressured environments of ED, but she says bias and discrimination can play a part in the care patients receive.
If you have that, in addition to already an underlying belief that some ethnic groups are bad or some ethnic groups are just naturally non-compliant, which is all just myth-telling. It's not true. It's racist ideology. And there's no excuse for racism in healthcare.
After initial contact, the whānau never heard back from Gisborne Hospital.
There were two questions. Why was she left waiting that long? And then she died. But what caused her death? My mokopuna is standing up in the A&E, in the waiting room, and they're dying there. There needs to be processes put in place so that family can question these things. And it's okay for us to do that and get those answers.
After the whānau contacted the hui, Te Whatu Ora requested a meeting with them. At a meeting, the findings of an internal and external investigation into Jane's death were discussed.
I don't believe it was a review at all. It was about let's try and see if we can present this in a way that safeguards them, but not give us the answers that we're looking for.
In a statement to the hui, Te Whatu Ora Tairāwhiti Acting Group Director Operations, Sarita Karauria said, "Firstly, we wish to recognise the loss of Jane Roberta Taihatu Rose Brunt and the deep impact this has had on her whānau and friends." The Chief Medical Officer of Tairāwhiti Hospital and the hospital's Manager of Quality and Patient Safety met with Miss Brunt's whānau in August to offer our apologies. A formal written apology on behalf of Health New Zealand has been sent to Miss Brunt's whānau. It is with regret that we acknowledge this whānau hui could have taken place earlier and that our communication to Miss Brunt's whānau should have been better. We have accepted the recommendations made in both investigations and we are currently working to implement these.
It was just sort of swept under the rug and she deserved more than that. Every time I look at her photo, which is every day, it's always there. It's never going to go away. To be honest, I still break down every now and then.
Jane's whānau will keep fighting for the truth.
She's with me, hoping I get the answers for all of us.